When the world offered him $1 billion to bow down, he said no. Instead, he chose to build a nation's future with his own hands and without the West. This is the untold journey of Ibrahim Traoré, the young African leader rewriting history. The sun was high over Ouagadougou when a convoy of sleek, black SUVs rolled through the palace gates, their engines humming like a warning. Inside the largest car sat foreign envoys in crisp suits, carrying silver briefcases and polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. They were here with an offer, $1 billion in development aid for Burkina Faso. But as the lead delegate spoke, his words carried weight far heavier than money. The aid would come with conditions, foreign oversight on key ministries, unrestricted access to the country's mining operations, and the quiet handover of strategic land for security purposes. Around the table, Traoré's advisors shifted. Uncomfortably, some whispered about the schools that could be built, the hospitals that could be stocked, the salaries that could be paid. One advisor leaned toward him and murmured, "Sir, no one in Africa refuses such an offer." But Traoré didn't look at the money. He looked at the fine print. His jaw tightened as he imagined farmers losing their land, children growing up under foreign control, and the nation's voice being silenced for generations. He leaned forward, his tone calm but firm. "If we take this, will our children still be free?" Silence filled the room. The delegates glanced at one another but didn't answer. Traoré already knew. His voice cut through the heavy air. "Then, we have nothing to discuss." The meeting ended abruptly, the foreign envoys leaving with their briefcases untouched. Outside, the city moved as if nothing had happened, but inside the palace walls, a storm was already gathering. Traoré had just made a choice that would define his leadership and put Burkina Faso on a path that would either inspire Africa or invite its wrath. Word of Traoré's refusal spread through Ouagadougou like wildfire, igniting both pride and fear. In the markets, some spoke of him as a hero, the man who dared to stand against the West. Others worried quietly, asking what would happen when powerful nations decided to punish Burkina Faso for saying no. That evening, as the call to prayer echoed over the rooftops, Traoré stood on the balcony of the presidential residence, looking out at the city lights flickering in the warm night. His defense minister stepped forward, holding a dossier filled with intelligence reports. The files detailed a troubling pattern, strange movements along the northern borders, foreign humanitarian groups suddenly increasing their presence, and rumors of weapons being smuggled into rebel hands. "They won't come at us directly," the minister said grimly. "They'll come through the shadows." Traoré listened in silence, his eyes narrowing. He knew this was no coincidence. Rejecting the $1 billion deal had already set the wheels in motion. Later, he met with village elders from across the country, listening to their worries about food shortages, poor roads, and schools without teachers. "We will fix these," he told them, "but we will do it with our own hands." His words stirred hope, yet he could feel the weight of the challenge pressing on his shoulders. That night, while the city slept, Traoré stayed awake at his desk, drawing up plans to strengthen the army, secure the borders, and launch homegrown development projects. He knew the road ahead would be long and dangerous, but he also knew that every step forward would prove that Burkina Faso could stand without kneeling. Somewhere far beyond the palace walls, unseen eyes were already watching, waiting for him to stumble. But the heat of the Sol sun pressed down as a convoy of white-painted trucks rolled toward Burkina Faso's northern villages. Bold humanitarian logos splashed across their sides. Villagers gathered along the dusty road, their faces lighting, with hope at the sight of what they believed was food aid, sacks of rice, maybe medicine. But at the checkpoint, soldiers noticed something wrong. The drivers avoided eye contact. Their documents looked freshly forged, and the crates bore mismatched sealing tape, as if they had been opened and closed again. A dull, metallic echo rang when one soldier tapped a box that should have been filled with grain. Within minutes, word reached the capital, and President Traoré himself arrived, stepping out in full fatigues, the desert wind tugging at his beret. Without hesitation, he ordered the nearest crate open. The wood splintered, and the truth gleamed in the sunlight. Rows of assault rifles, ammunition belts, and grenades buried under a thin layer of rice. The crowd gasped, the drivers stiffened, and Traoré's voice cut through the stunned silence. This was never food. This was war. One driver, trembling under questioning, named a small foreign aid group as their employer, a group Traoré recognized from intelligence files as a front for an international arms network. He ordered every truck seized and the drivers detained. That night, intelligence officers traced a satellite phone found in the convoy to GPS coordinates near the northern border, a rebel stronghold. The message on the screen was chilling. Asterisk delivered by nightfall. Target secured. Asterisk Traore knew he had no time to waste. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he summoned his most trusted soldiers. We move now, he said, his tone cold and certain. Before these weapons reach their mark. Asterisk the night was thick with silence, broken only by the low hum of armored vehicles moving under the cover of darkness. President Traore rode in the lead, eyes fixed on the dim glow of the GPS tracker guiding them toward the coordinates pulled from the satellite phone. Every man in the convoy knew the stakes. If the hidden rebel base received those weapons, villages across the north could be thrown into chaos within hours. The road narrowed into a jagged canyon, the perfect place for an ambush, and Traore raised his fist, signaling a full stop. In the stillness, faint voices carried on the wind, speaking in a language foreign to the region. Moving quietly, the soldiers advanced on foot until the flicker of firelight revealed a camp of armed men, unloading more crates from a different truck, its license plates hastily removed. Foreign advisors in desert camouflage stood among them, mapping routes on a satellite image spread across the hood of a jeep with a sharp command. Traore's forces surrounded the camp, weapons raised. Chaos erupted, rebels scrambled for cover, gunfire cracking through the night. Traore pushed forward, tackling one of the foreign advisors to the ground, ripping off his mask to reveal a face he recognized from intelligence dossiers. A mercenary tied to multiple coups in West Africa. Within minutes, the rebel stronghold was overrun, crates of weapons secured, and dozens of prisoners taken. But as Traore walked through the smoldering camp, his boots struck a metal case half buried in the dirt. Inside was a single envelope, marked with a foreign embassy seal, containing orders for the operation and the signature of a high-ranking official from a country claiming to support African peace. Traore's jaw tightened. This was no local uprising. This was part of something much bigger. Asterisk dawn broke over Ouagadougou as the prisoners from the Kenyan operation were brought into the secure military compound. President Traore stood at the center of the strategy room, the foreign embassy sealed envelope resting on the table before him. Around him, his most trusted ministers and commanders listened in tense silence as he laid out the truth. The intercepted convoy, the foreign mercenaries, the weapons hidden under sacks of rice, and now, undeniable proof of outside interference. The evidence was overwhelming, yet exposing it would risk international backlash, sanctions, even threats of regime change. But Traore's voice was steady. We did not fight for our freedom just to sell it again, he said, meeting each man's gaze. Within hours, he called a press conference, the cameras broadcasting his every word across Africa and beyond. Holding up the letter for the world to see, he named the foreign official, the mercenary group, and the businessmen who had funded the fake humanitarian mission. Gasps rippled through the room as he revealed that this was not charity. It was a covert attempt to destabilize Burkina Faso and seize control of its resources. To those who come with weapons disguised as aid, he declared, "Know this, we will not bow." Outside, crowds gathered in the streets, chanting his name, waving flags, and demanding justice. As the sun set, Traore watched from his balcony, the city alive with unity and defiance. He knew the fight ahead would be even harder. The enemies of Africa's independence would not retreat quietly. But in that moment, with the truth out and his people behind him, he felt the unshakable certainty that they had won more than a battle. They had lit a fire that no amount of money, weapons, or foreign influence could extinguish. The real war for Africa's future had just begun. Asterisk, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Asterisk, subscribe to Faso Histories for more powerful and inspiring stories from Africa.